Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching and Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channels. This is, of course, Pro Wrestling Logic. This is our return to the WCW Saturday Night. February 1st, 1992 is this particular edition. Mike Graham and Brian Pillman opening the show, which is a weird tag team, as it were, but sometimes filler matches need to happen, I guess. Anyway, so we go to the featuring the announcement of Ricky Steamboat facing U.S. champion Rick Rude and Brian Pillman facing light heavyweight champion Jushin Liger at Super Brawl. Tag team champions Arn Anderson and Bobby Eaton with Paulie Dangerously defeating Pillman and Graham in a non-title match 8:34. Anderson pins Graham after Eaton hits the Alabama Jam behind the referee's back. Ultimately, is it a perfect match? No, not by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly interesting. Brian Pillman at the time, probably looking, I wouldn't say the best he's ever looked, but Brian Pillman going into the, into that match with none other than Jushin Liger. Liger, probably the best Pillman match of his WCW career. Anderson trying to stall with Mike Graham a bit. Mike Graham, not exactly a good wrestler at the time. Certainly better in Florida than he was here. Pillman tries to cinch up on the arm, stay on the arm for a good bit of time. Pillman gets sent to the outside, and then there is a regroup between Anderson and Eaton. Anderson and Eaton, one of the better tag teams in WCW at the time, brawling around a bit. Anderson and Eaton kind of going at it. Anderson slowing things down, taking a few pot shots at Brian Pillman. Good back and forth there. Constant tags between the baby faces. Pillman hits a couple of drop kicks on a guy like Bobby Eaton. Pretty basic stuff, and ultimately leading to a continuation of very simple stuff. Eaton comes in, as mentioned, when Graham has him in the figure four. Referee is off with Pillman. Eaton hits the Alabama Jam, leading the tag team champions to get the victory. Decent match, worth going out of your way to see. More hype around things there. Luger and Sting obviously going to be your main event for Super Brawl 2. And the betrayal by Luger at Starrcade 91. Pretty big deal. Luger basically says he is finally the world champion and he has earned that right. Sting is stealing his time in the spotlight. Also, promos hyping the announcement during this WCW magazine segment of the nature that is not Hulk Hogan, but the Rude and Steamboat deal. They've been warring with each other. Their Super Bowl II match, pretty big deal at the time over the U.S. title. Rude, of course, the number one contender to the World Championship. So Rude and Sting is where we're going after the Super Bowl pay-per-view. Mr. Hughes out, Vinny Vegas out next with a match himself. Brad Armstrong is his opponent. Vegas coming up with a couple of hard clotheslines. Vegas, of course, known as most notably Diesel and Kevin Nash to most people. This tag match, though, is one for him to show his power. Amazing that he's probably had about 30 matches that he claims at one point in the WCW run. Because honestly, Vinny Vegas, the character, is well developed and also pretty basic run here. And Vegas certainly having a lot of power moves. It is Vinny Vegas and Mr. Hughes in the tag match. Odd run. Maybe was there a plan for Harley Race to also manage Vinny Vegas? That would have been an interesting combination, to say the very least. They face off against Joey Maggs and Brad Armstrong. Obviously, Maggs, the weaker link of that team. Armstrong, though, not really terribly respected. Obviously, a power versus finesse match, for lack of a better term, going forward, and it's a very simple run here. Vegas trying to keep his man down for quite a while. Doesn't exactly go the way he plans. Maggs tags in, tries to brawl with both men. That doesn't go very well for Joey Maggs. Maggs obviously a enhancement talent here. Although Mags does hold his own for a minute before Hughes runs him over. Pretty basic deal there. And kind of keeping things going. Vinny Vegas hits the Snake Eyes after a power slam by Mr. Hughes and a victory. There is a promo by Vinny Vegas. Vegas basically says he's unstoppable and he's willing to roll the dice. They almost do tease it's going to be a pretty consistent tag team. Then we see Marcus Alexander Bagwell against Mark Kyle, otherwise known in Smoky Mountain Wrestling as Killer Kyle. Bagwell managing to hit some basic body slams and arm drags and the like. Super basic stuff. Fisherman suplex by Bagwell leads him to the victory, otherwise known as the Perfect Flex. Again, a confrontation between Terrence Taylor, and Bagwell going forward there. Basically, Taylor says that he is questioning his involvement with the York Foundation, of which he was a charter member. He's unhappy with that. Highlights of a house show match at the Omni in Atlanta. Going forward there, Sting and um, Steve Austin. Highlighted match there, just kind of showing a little bit of extra matches just to fill time. Sting battles back, stun gun by Austin. Austin, though, to be in the ring with Sting at that point also allows for the continuation of a fight between the two and all of that. Also highlights of Lex Luger and Stan Hansen from previous pay-per-views, putting Luger over as a major star. WCW was pretty good at trying to make people care about, um, you know, history at the time. Didn't exactly go the way everybody planned, but then there we go. Then we move to Sting facing off in a enhancement style match with an opponent, which, I mean, Sting, being that he's going into Super Bowl in a couple of weeks, does he need this enhancement style match? No, not terribly much, to be honest, but they're doing it. Mike Samples gets beat with a 115 Scorpion Deathlock, Stinger Splash, Scorpion Deathlock in the corner. I mean, it's certainly a one-sided match, doesn't really necessarily matter in the long run of things. Then we go to Barry Windham defeating TV champion Steve Austin with Paulie dangerously by disqualification. 349 dangerously tries to break Windham's figure 4. After the bout, the Steiners make the save against Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko. So that's a pretty good run in that the feud between Windham and Austin, pretty good here around the idea of the television championship. Super basic match, nothing wonderful to look at, but there is proof that you can have a high impact 3 or 4 minute match. Austin sends Windham to the outside. They brawl pretty consistently on the outside there, and Austin even sends his opponent into the steel barricade. I mean, it's definitely a brawler's match, and they go around here. It is also clear that the disqualification's a thing. Steamboat encourages people not to take drugs. Rick Rude out here with Tom Zink, but before we get there, we see whipping by Rude of Rick Steamboat, building their Super Brawl 2 match, whipping him with the belt, and then we see Tom Zink against Rick Rude, U.S. champion Rude, of course, not willing to take a backward step to Zink. Very basic matches here, both guys from Minnesota, both guys I think having trained or at least worked in Minnesota a little bit. Rude cuts Zink off and is doing some walk and talk. Zink gets very basic moves, a couple of drop kicks and some arm bars, but nothing to write home about in terms of Zink's consistencies. Gutbuster, though, by Rude. Rude trying to cut his man off. Really simple, and Rude eventually hits a couple knees to the midsection trying to get a cut off, and then Rude goes off to, I wouldn't say the top rope entirely, but bear hug by Rude leading to the stun gun. Rude eventually hits the Rude Awakening and getting the victory. Rick Rude, still your U.S. champion and still in top form as the leader of the Dangerous Alliance. We will be back with more right after this.